This is episode 39 of the Marshall Street Podcast.
You're listening to the Marshall Street Podcast, the home of music industry know-how that will give you the skills to take your career to the next level. Here are your hosts, Bennett Ferguson and Stu Watts.
What's up, everyone? This episode is called Becoming the Best Version of Yourself. And today we were joined by Josh Collard of Earthcaller. We discuss his experience of being in bands, being on tour. He also talks a lot about a self-reflection, self-journey that he went through when he was writing their new album. So it's a great episode. We hope you enjoy it.
And as always, if you like what you heard, remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel.
Let's get into it.
What is up, everyone?
Welcome.
Welcome to the old Marshall Street Podcast. We're back in 2021.
We're back. First podcast of the year, and we have got the man, Josh Collard, with us.
How's
Josh,
it going, boys?
From Earthcaller, welcome.
Thank you very much for joining us, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Right,
No worries, no worries.
Before we get into it, I just need to say you are the most sought after guest we've had. I have gotten people requesting you to be on this podcast.
Oh, no
which
way.
Which hasn't happened for any guest before. So you are the most sought after guest we've had.
Oh, well, that's an honor. I appreciate that feedback, man.
No, man, it is great.
Glad people want to hear me talk.
Well, you've got a lot to talk about, man. You've been in the scene for a long time. You played in a lot of fucking cool bands. You've done a lot of cool shit.
Oh, cheers, man. Thank you.
Why don't I want to take it back first to when I first met you or got to know of who you were was back when you were playing in Juliet's End.
That's high school stuff for anybody playing at home.
And that was back with like the Freezer sort of gigs and around that sort of time.
Those were the days.
Yeah, man. Do you want to walk us through that? Was that your first band?
Yeah, it was. So basically, I guess like the story of that band is that I went to a school. Where there were these three brothers. Like I'll just start right at the start.
Yeah.
They were their last name is Starbuck. Shout out to Jimmy, Harley, and Will. And they were playing in a punk band. And I remember they played like a couple of originals and a couple of covers at a primary school assembly just to like, you know, just as like a little showcase for the younger kids. They were all in high school at that point, I think. And I just remember like looking at them and being like, that is exactly what I want to do.
Surely their band name was Starbucks.
Yeah, I know. It should have been, man. The last name was so dope. But yeah, I just thought those guys were the coolest, and they actually are the coolest dudes. Like I'm still in touch with them, but I remember that being like the initial inspiration. So that was probably around like grade 5 or 6, and then I sort of like built from there. I asked for a guitar for my 12th or 13th birthday, and then not long after that, me and some of the guys that were around my age at that school were we started a band, and it was called Juliet's End. And our first gig was the Diamond Creek State Fair.
Yes.
And it was a battle of the bands.
It was run by Fruit Bowl, was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Fruit Bowl days.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. I actually don't remember whether or not we won. I don't think we won, but I think our singer, who was like a classically trained, really good singer, might have won like a $50 voucher to get some singing lessons.
Yeah, right.
Which I think he may have been a little bit offended about.
What was their name? What was his name?
Jordan White. Jordan White. He's actually doing some really cool projects. He's signed to Gautier's label, and he's got a project called Brailleface at the moment, and he was in a band called Playwright, which are on hiatus. But I hope he brings it back because that was really good.
Yeah, I know the name Playwright.
Awesome.
Both of those projects are doing well for him and stuff. Shout out to Jordan. We got together with a couple of other friends, and we started playing some shows. We got some shows after that through Freezer and the council people, and there was also like FIAB and Rock the Hill, and it was just basically like the Freezer shows around that area.
It's taking me back.
I know.
I did FIAB for a few years, but I remember Rock the Hill as well.
I actually did.
Canton Hill and stuff, wasn't it?
I actually did FIAB for a few years as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Put my own band on shows, conflict of interest.
Absolutely, same.
Yeah.
That's what it's there for.
Yeah. So funnily enough, like, I mean, I guess it's a testament to the life of the scene back then, but we were starting to pull like, you know, 300-400 kids to our shows, and I guess from there
What year was this? Sorry.
So this is 2005, 2006.
Yep.
So, you know, I've messed around for a few years getting like a band going and, you know, finding my way and stealing Senses Fail riffs and, you know, all that
That's
good
right.
stuff.
Yeah, Senses Fail, they were a big influence back then.
Yeah. So I played in like that screamo band Juliet's End for a few years. I also sang for a metal band called Meridian, and that was where my love for metal started really coming in. Hardcore and metal, like seeing Carpathian, Bear Trap, and all those like awesome Melbourne hardcore bands from back then. And then I guess here we are like 2021 and still doing it
now with Earthcaller as well.
Yeah.
And I saw you guys play at, I think it was Bang, I think it was Bang a few years ago maybe.
Yeah.
I think I was meeting someone there. I'd ended up there and I wasn't meant to be there that night. Ended up there, I'm waiting in line.
Nobody ever is.
Yes, correct. And then fucking some people in line, they're like, "Oh, you here to see the band?" I'm like, "No, I'm fucking just cruising around." Band was Earthcaller, and then like I didn't realize you were in it, let alone who the band was. So I was sitting, I'm like, "Fuck." Josh is still kicking around. He's still in fucking bands, still doing it. And that was the first time I saw him. I was like, "Oh," and like your live shows are sick. Like,
thanks,
you
heaps,
played
man.
you throw down a very clean live set.
Appreciate it, man. I'm glad you got your first exposure to us at Bang. Those shows are so sick.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Those are
and
the best
because
time.
everyone's just vibing it. Like the whole crowd was there to see you guys.
Oh.
Yeah, it was fucking sick. That was my first exposure to Earthcaller.
I assume that the whole crowd was there for vodka raspberries, but
Well, that's what we may be there for.
yeah.
So run us through how Earthcaller got started.
So Earthcaller got started in initially it was kind of just me writing songs. I wasn't planning on being the singer initially. We like messed around with some songs that were a version like that, and then that kind of like just didn't work out because frankly you know how it goes, young and it's really hard to find personnel in a band.
Yeah.
I would say that Earthcaller was really kind of founded in like 2013 or 2014, and that initial lineup just pretty much began like self-recording our first record, Degenerate. We had it mixed overseas by a producer named Shane Frisbee, who did like the Bury Your Dead records and I think some Unearthed ones and stuff like that.
I know.
And then I guess that was, and then so 2015 was when it really launched. But we were super fortunate in like 2014 to get like a little, like not quite touring or whatever, but interstate shows through D's Nuts. Like D's Nuts took us up to Brisbane.
That's right. JJ Peters.
JJ Peters.
Yeah, man, they were sick.
They are sick.
It's
Are they still going?
Yeah, hell yeah. JJ's also got a solo rap project at the moment, which he's launching, and it's it's in its early stages, but like it's fucking amazing, man. It's honestly so good. His first single, Have You Ever, is like I would say my favorite from that bunch, and he's got like new drops like Pineapple and Celery and stuff like that.
Sick.
Sorry, just doing PR.
fucking
Just
love
here
it.
doing PR for my homies.
Yeah, so you got a couple of interstate shows?
Got a couple interstate shows, and once you kind of we were very fortunate to get that through D's Nuts, because once you've got your name on like a poster back then, once you had your like a name on a poster with somebody as huge as D's Nuts, it kind of it's like a your resume. You start getting offers in Adelaide and Sydney and stuff. And so like that kind of began our interstate sort of expansion, and I suppose from there we kind of focused on getting more interstate shows and sort of doing it the traditional way of just like slogging it out, sleeping in the van, sleeping on the floor,
100%.
and then doing as many tours as we could from there. After the release of our first record, Degenerate, it sort of picked up. We got actually another D's Nuts tour,
nice.
like a whole tour that time,
Yes,
and
awesome.
and then it sort of progressed from there.
Question on the early days, when you guys were first starting out, did you know that you wanted to take it really seriously, or was it just kind of a fun project?
I tried to always encourage fun, but I was taking it really seriously. And I mean, at that point in my life, like I was I had been through like a lot of dark shit, in the years leading up to that, and Earthcaller was really like the first good thing that had happened to me in like a really long time. And so like I sort of like gripped onto it with both hands and and just like really wanted to pursue it and took it really seriously. With age, obviously, comes wisdom and stuff. And what I've kind of realized now is that I suppose it was kind of like it's kind of a different world back then. You'd be surprised how much the world can change in the space of
Yeah.
like 6 or 7 years. But what I've realized now is that with a band, it's those, you know how they say like, you know, never mix friends and business. It's one of those rare crossovers where friends and business is like literally the foundation
It's
for
life,
it.
yeah.
the only way,
The
yeah.
crux. Yeah.
And so ultimately speaking, like, you know, you've got this like group of people who are like, you know, ideally supposed to be like brothers and chasing a unified in chasing this goal. And I used to like, you know, I used to like, you know, maybe take it a little bit too seriously.
Yeah.
Like, and like, I suppose like that's one of my regrets. Like if anybody's in a band that's just starting out or whatever, I've got some good advice for you.
Yeah,
I'll tell
keep
you,
it coming.
I'll tell you all the mistakes that I
Yeah.
made. But
100%.
so in reality, it needs to be one, you need to have, if you want your band to be stable, you need to have stable personnel, like people who actually exude stability in their like lives outside
And
of
conscious
the band.
thought, like
Yeah.
like awareness and conscious.
Oh,
yeah.
hyper awareness,
Yeah.
hyper conscious thought.
Yeah.
But ultimately speaking, regardless of, you know, things like the stability of members, the quality of the music, you know, the trajectory of the band, the thing that needs to actually be there is the fun, you know? And so now I've got sort of like a different approach in how I handle the band, like, you know, a few years on. I think the most important thing is that you, how do I put this? So the most important thing is that I think really ultimately speaking, you have to dedicate yourself to the quality of the music. There's so many things in any kind of like creative process that you have no control over.
Yeah.
You have no control over which song people like the most.
Totally.
You know, you can only guess at that.
Yep.
You have no control over like who's going to offer you this festival, this show, this whatever. You really have no control over that. The only thing that you ultimately have control over is how you treat each other within the band, the amount of respect that you have for the work, and the dedication that you have to actually creating the most solid project. And ideally, if you dedicate yourself to those sort of tenets of respecting one another, you know, respecting the process, and, you know, working really hard on the quality of the output, ideally everything else sort of falls into place. But it's like, you know, yeah.
And that's like so
I think you
important.
absolutely fucking nailed it, man.
The other thing that I wanted to tag on is like you mentioned people first, and I think that is like a sign of like not only wisdom but awareness as well.
Yeah,
is that-
wisdom learned through a lot of fucking mistakes.
Yeah.
Hey, don't worry,
and-
man. As fucking dude who's been on here, Jack the Bear says all the times, like, one, it takes shit for a flower to grow, and two, man, fucking we're black belts at fucking up. It's like we'll find the fucking 3 ways to fuck it up, but if you learn from it,
Yeah.
that's what brings us here.
And and you know, there's the wrong people, and at the time, it's so hard when you're invested in something that's creative. You're so focused on, in this case, music. You're focused on a project. You don't necessarily have the awareness that someone might not be the right fit.
Yeah.
And it's and so can you talk on that a little bit?
Oh,
Like
yeah,
you've
absolutely,
had, you know,
absolutely.
people that haven't done the right thing by you, by the band. Like how did you find that
and
out?
I've had situations where I haven't been like, you know, the leader that I should have been, you know, honestly. And like ultimately speaking, like we've had a lot of members come in and out of the band, right? But we've been sitting as the same lineup for the last 2 years, 2 releases now. Oh, well, the upcoming release will be our second release together.
Yep.
And this is the most stable and solid lineup that we have. It's really ultimately like, I feel like I wasn't really sort of in a band until I was with these guys, Carlo, Nick, and Clinchy.
Awesome.
And it's sort of breathed new life. And so like, I'll speak about like the positives, but I'll talk about some mistakes now. Like when you are the leader, ultimately, regardless of what happens, the responsibility is on you. And I've, like anybody else, like I'm just a person who's got my own, you know, who had my own shit and my own stuff to work out. And, you know, regretfully, I worked it out in the context of, you know, in the trajectory of my band. But on the other side of all of it, I think that there's a combination of things. It's when you're really enthusiastic about a project, right? You finding people that are willing to like, you know, be the wind beneath your wings and be there for you is hard in and of itself. But it's very easy to let your enthusiasm in, like, you know, cloud your like sort of choices of who you choose like to have in the band and stuff like that. But also when you're not operating as the best version of yourself, you actually can only attract a certain, you know, vibe yourself. So when you're not 100% the best possible version of yourself that you can be, you're not going to get the best possible version of the outcome that you want in any respect.
I love that.
Yeah, and I realized that just burying myself in the songwriting was never going to address the issues that I was having with myself. And honestly, that's probably a good segue to talk about like the content of the new album.
Yeah, go for it.
So yeah, the new album is really like a ruthlessly introspective and self-critical sort of record. And I was like following Crook, which was like, you know, I wrote Crook with like literally just like the vibe of just hardest hitting stuff. And, you know, I want people to like listen to it at the gym, listen to it to like G them up, like maybe before a job interview or before when they have to crush.
That's a good goal.
Yeah, there was like, you know, there was substance to it, but there wasn't like a lot of like substance, you know, in my opinion. Like I was just strictly writing it for the mosh pit, you know.
Yep.
This album is like the complete opposite. Like I've like, you know, like it's like the lyrical equivalent of taking a really long hard look at yourself in the mirror and like showing yourself absolutely zero, like giving yourself zero outs, you know, just really ruthless about everything, not giving myself a break. And that's what like the new lyrical content is. Cool. And
Awesome. Love it.
yeah, cheers. And so it's honestly the work that I'm most proud of because I'm like the most scared to release it, you know? Like
So that's a good sign, I think.
Yeah, and I think that music should have like a certain level of like, you know,
Vulnerability.
Vulnerability, and you should have to feel like you're being courageous in releasing it. Otherwise, what are you really sort of doing?
Playing it safe, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And Crook actually did like way better than both Degenerate and our second record. But much like in the way of finding myself with like needing new members before Crook was recorded and released, like I just wanted to like now, rather than building upon something that wasn't an ideal situation, we've got everything that we sort of aimed out to do with Crook, and I want to build upon something strong, you know. Cool. And the way that I chose to do that was lyrically go in almost like the opposite direction and throw a little bit of a curveball and also musically as well. Our new guitarist Carlo has also been contributing to the writing process. He got like a song on the record, which is one of my favorites. And it's just like it's like, I think this record is going to surprise people. I think they're going to like it.
Sick.
Awesome, man. I'm fucking looking forward to it, dude. And even just from that, like, that can tell the journey you've been on. I think there are a lot of parallels with the other journeys that creatives go on.
Yeah.
It's something we speak about all the time on the podcast when we had Hamish Kramer talking about going inside. And like, you know, for me, it was the, you know, things that have kind of happened up in the last 10 years. There comes a point when you have to look inside and shine a light on all the fucking dark places that you're trying to hide shit.
Yeah.
And I think it either goes two ways. You either fucking run from it or you address the fucking demons there.
Yeah.
You actually look inside and you can, and it's not easy and it's not a short process.
No.
But once you get to the other side of it, which from the sounds of it, you're getting towards that side of it now, it's a fucking better place to be.
Oh,
like
my
you're
God.
okay with yourself. You can develop real fucking relationships. The friends that you have around you become real fucking friends.
Yeah.
Because you haven't run away from the shit that was fucking lingering.
Yeah.
You're also like not being as defensive as you probably normally would. Like, you know, when you're closed off to your insecurities, anything can crack you or anything can make you feel like tense and you're probably not sleeping right. You're probably like using alcohol or drugs to like combat it, all that sort of stuff.
Correct.
It's just
It's
such
like,
a knock on.
It's super easy to bury that stuff under a layer of fucking weed and alcohol,
Yeah.
which is what a lot of fucking artists do.
And this is another thing, like, at the time when I wasn't sort of operating as I am now, like, showing myself the ultimate, like, self-love, self-respect, exercising every day, cutting back on, any kind of like vice that, eliminating vices and, focusing on like good eating and just, what material I'm consuming in terms of entertainment, just like, just not trying not to poison myself in any way,
Being more conscious about the choices that you're making by the sounds of things. Yeah.
Exactly. And the thing is like, a lot of people think that they understand what it is that they're doing in their day-to-day life. Like a lot of people think that, when somebody's this way, they're choosing to be this way, or, they're like, conscious of it. But like, I really have like sort of learnt through this like super hard process of self-improvement that 90% of the time, people actually like 99% of the time, people aren't actually aware of what it is that they're doing. And, and there's always, there's always another layer to your behavior.
Absolutely.
There's always,
if not
there's
3 or 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel like in society, it's cool that people have gotten like more tolerant and accepting of other people, but at the same time, I think people are also more judgmental and more sort of ready to like attack and stuff. Which I mean, like, sure, some people need to be taken down or whatever, like for sure. But like,
I think those people who do, because I think you're definitely right. There is certain aspects of, or people of society that we've seen that have become almost full circle the other way in terms of how accepting they are. And it's suddenly like, oh man, you can walk around with fucking a mohawk and fucking tattoos and hand tattoos like fucking 10, 15 years ago. Fucking, that would have been ridiculous.
Yeah.
These days I can walk through an office and most people are like, oh yeah, sweet, they're usually open. But there is some who do definitely pass that judgment quickly. But I think even on the kind of journey I've gone on, you can see it for what it is in terms of that's just fucking them and their insecurities projecting whatever they see in their own personal reality onto you.
Yeah, 100%.
At the end of the day, we all only live in our own personal reality. Like everything that I've done, no one else knows my whole life except me. Everyone else, Stu, your perception of me is only from the little bits of my life that you've been exposed to. So no one has been exposed to my whole life except for me. So therefore, anyone who thinks I'm a fuckwit or I'm a dickhead, like any of this, like cool. You may have seen me in that brief period and that's your perspective of it, and that's fine. I know me for my whole life, and I don't have to fucking care about what you think about me as much as I care about what I think about me.
Yeah.
I guess ultimately, like the point that I was sort of, I guess I started speaking a little bit vague, but I think ultimately, like the point that I was like trying to make is that I think everybody has a responsibility to be as hyper aware of their own behavior and really, really look deeply into themselves. I think that's the personal responsibility. And I think like the external responsibility that everybody has is also to just before they like decide what somebody is or who they are, they should just take into account that like, you don't know where this person's sort of been, what they've gone through, like, and, kindness really does go like a long way. Like, that's like another thing I've learned, the greatest respect that people have usually comes from like a combination of assertive honesty as well as a deep sort of compassion. I feel like that is the best way to build respect, to mend bridges, like the music industry is like really, really ruthless. And like, you can't help but move through, the day-to-day sort of operations of it without, the risk of like burning bridges. Like, a lot of people, like there's a lot of ego in it. Like an ego, like I'm not saying like ego is like a completely unhealthy or unnatural thing. It's a very natural thing for humans to have. And I think that like anybody who's able to get out on stage and, perform for like a large audience has some kind of ego, hopefully healthy, a healthy one. And you know, you sort of move through and you don't know, like, you know, literally just turning down a show could permanently offend somebody, and you can never really sort of make it right with them. But like, you know, like a lot of times, like they don't take into account, you know, oh, we can't take this because we have that recording date tomorrow. We don't want to rinse our drummer, or we can't take this show because of this or that. And like, what I'm hoping is that, given like the current state of the world and like the chaos of it all, and like nobody is having an easy time at the moment, what I'm hoping is that the adversity sort of, and you know, obviously for the music industry specifically, we've been absolutely gutted and rinsed, like no shows, no, like, you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
like bands like Northlane, like I can't imagine like what organizing a show would be like for them. They literally are waiting on the vaccine so that they can actually fill a room with the amount of people that they deserve to play in front of, you know?
Yep.
And what I'm hoping is that, like, on the other side of this, a lot of people are just sort of more compassionate, more understanding, and that this scene sort of becomes a scene rather than tall poppy syndrome, and you know, and you know, people trying to protect their own positions and all that kind of stuff. Like, it would work a lot better if everybody was a lot more friendly and a lot more nicer, and, you know, a lot more inclusive, you know.
I think it's getting back to that, man. I definitely agree, and
Yeah,
I
it feels
hope
like it.
and I feel like it is doing that again. Even in hip hop, we had Junior on here, and about a few years ago, he's like a big DJ. He runs $80 Real Music. DJ'd for Ivan News, played with Wu-Tang. He was saying, like, you know, it was a conscious thing about 2 or 3 years ago that all the Melbourne hip hop crews got together and they're like, we are just fucking ending all this fucking beef. We are working together, because if we all fucking work together, we will raise the level of hip hop in Melbourne to the point where we put Melbourne on the map.
Yeah, that's
if
right.
If Melbourne's on the fucking map, we all win. We'll all eat if fucking Melbourne's there.
Exactly.
So it's like, by working together, and it's hard. Like, I remember 10 years ago when we were fighting over the fucking same 4 support spots.
Yeah.
Like, there was fucking 20 crews doing shit, and there was fucking 2 tours going on, and
It's
you had to. It was like, man.
It's exactly like
fuck you, we need to get
2005,
this.
2006 metal, you
Yep.
know, like,
And but I think it is shifting. I think there is more people who, you know, whether it's for good or bad, have had to go on this fucking journey, a personal journey with their fucking bandmates, seeing things kind of deteriorate into this kind of chaos.
Yeah.
And I think people are happy and are starting to work towards, it's like, man, we want this sense of community. We want to fucking be friends with the dudes we play with. We want this scene back.
yeah.
We were just saying yesterday on the live stream that we did that, you know, the way things are going right now is that realistically we're only going to have Australian and New Zealand bands probably playing here for the next year or two, maybe.
I'm not mad at that at
Yeah,
all.
absolutely. But this is the point. This actually allows us to build more of a community, more of a scene. There's going to be, you know, more spots available on festivals, like all these little things that will just mean that hopefully that community aspect will be a lot tighter.
Yeah.
Everyone will be more friendly, you know, not as competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing wrong with a bit of healthy competition, but when it's but I think like, if I had to like put it into a phrase, there's like this like famine thinking. You know, there's only this many spots on these festivals. There's only this many shows, and but what I've sort of noticed is that the ingenuity of people is coming out. You know, like, we're seeing new promoters come up and, like, you know, do things like, for example, what we did on the weekend. You know those guys?
Yep.
Yeah, they've put on shows at Stay Gold when the cap was 50, and then so they were doing smart stuff like, you know, we'll do 2 shows in a night. You know, that kind of stuff, and I think, like, you know, after not playing for like 6 months, 10 months, or whatever it was that bands hadn't played for, I think that, like, the idea of performing for 50 people went from being like this, oh fuck that, sort of feeling to like, I am
Can't
so
wait.
grateful, cannot wait to see 50 faces, you know,
100%.
even if they're sitting down, you know, and like you know,
in so many ways that's better as well, because the attention span's going to be way more, like, you know, and especially a time
the
like this when-
appreciation for it,
the appreciation, like when you're first going to a show for the first time in a year, like how much you're just going to be like, I am here. You're not going to be wasting your time. Like,
And if
it's
there's
not
only-
just another gig.
If there's only 50 people, it's not like half of them have been dragged there and are just waiting to go to the bar or the party after. It's like,
exactly.
If there's limited 50 people, it's like, you're going to have 50 people who actually fucking want to be there.
Exactly.
Like, they actually give a shit.
And this is another thing, like like when you think of like for example like American comedians, right? Like you think of like these guys who are like really really like massive celebrities and like they've got like a lot of international fame. Those guys were like rather than constantly trying to move into like the selling out a theater, for example, like those guys were like, you know, these guys are like going and like, for example, a guy named Mark Normand, he supported Jerry Seinfeld, right?
Yep.
So like, that's like kind of like the ultimate, the ultimate like, you know, achievement in comedy. But also like, you know, he would then go and do road dates where he would like, you know, have a club for a weekend and do, you know, 3 or 4 shows to a couple hundred people, you know? And I think that like, in the Australian sort of music scene, it's like this very like, people have been sort of thinking in this very sort of rigid way of like, okay, so the first show you do is like at the Tote or something like that, you know, you want to, like, you know, once you can sell out the Tote, you move on to like, you know, the next thing, which is like, you know, maybe like the Workers Club or Stay Gold, and then you're moving on to Northcote Social.
Yeah, Evelyn.
Evelyn, Corner Hotel, Hi-Fi Bar, sorry, Max Watts, and sorry, just show my age.
I still refer to it as hi-fi.
Yeah. And you know, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And then so I think that like you know, this crisis opportunity sort of thing this crisis has sort of created an opportunity for people to sort of break free of the rigid thinking that of these are the goals, this is what you have to do, like, and sort of like gain some appreciation for like, you know, at the end of the day, if you play a show to like, regardless, like, you know, if you play a show to 50 people and say like 40 people in the crowd already know you, they're already sold, and like, you know, the other 10 people that are there were friends of these 40 people, or, you know, whatever the ratio is, that is still like, you know, there is still merit in converting those 10
absolutely.
people. Like people sort of forgot about that, you know?
Yeah, totally. That's the trouble with having a big sea of people. You could be playing to anyone and you have no idea who to target your attention to, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, with a smaller crowd, you're like, okay, I can clearly see who I need to convert.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, or whatever. Yeah.
Yep. And I think even, I think people underestimate, one, how many fucking people there are in the world. Like, there's a lot of people. They don't all need to fucking be fans of you. It's like, in each city, say if you're on a US tour, let's just fucking go to America for a second. In the US tour, literally, all you need is 800 people in that city, 1,000 people to know your band and to be into you, and you're gonna sell out a fucking theater. Yeah. Like, you don't need everyone in the world. It's like literally 800, 1,000 people. If they know your music and are involved enough to fucking come to your show, you're gonna be a successful artist. You're gonna be able to play shows. You're gonna be able to consistently fucking do what you want, do what you like.
Yeah, and the hardcore and metalcore scene has obviously like expanded quite a lot over the last like 10, 15 years, right? But if you like wind the clock back to 2004, 2005, like the best example of this kind of like the kind of thinking that I think we've all moved away from was Parkway Drive going to Europe. They went there, they got like a camper van, and they played to 5 people.
Yep.
Like they went to Milan and played to like, you know,
And I think
12 people.
Was that after they played like that regional tour here?
Possibly. I
think they did like some regional tour, and it was just like lines around the corner. Like
yes,
they were playing,
actually, no,
they were playing like regional pubs that fucking bands didn't play, and kids were queuing up like 3 or 4 people wide around the block. So they just did a whole lap of the country as playing legit sold out fucking shows, like 400-500 people in a room, and then fucking went over to Europe, got in a van and played to fucking 5 people.
Because they weren't too good to do that. You know, they weren't too good for that. And I think that there is like a lot of merit in that. And I think that like you guys wanted to talk about touring and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I think that that's like probably a good launching point for the conversation. Like you know, in Melbourne, like we've been reduced to however many people can come to a show. Like, you know, Earthcaller, like for booking stuff for like our upcoming record, we've had to sort of consider that and sort of be like, well, what's the optimal number of people that we should have at these shows?
Yep.
Like, what's worth doing? Like, you know, can we get into different states and stuff like that? Because the borders are closing and stuff like that. You know, you really have to be on the ball. But for bands that are just beginning, you shouldn't feel like you're too good to play for 10 people.
Yep.
Like,
for anything, I think like that mindset is very damaging. Like for most areas of the music industry.
But I think it comes back. I'll digress to my own personal experiences on that anyway. I think when you feel like you're too good, quote unquote, for that situation, it's like, man, fucking there should have been more people here. Or fuck, why didn't I get the fucking headline spot? Or why didn't I get that? When you get those feelings, for me, it's when I was looking for the things that were out of my control. I was doing music for the wrong reasons. I was looking for the symptoms rather than enjoying the process. Like, and I remember vividly the first time I realized I'd fell into this mindset, I was fucking standing. Do you know Jack Rockman?
yes.
Yeah, so when I was over at his fucking crib, I was on his balcony. I think I was just smoking a joint and looking out, and we just dropped a single, and it didn't fucking do as well as I thought, and I think we didn't get a support spot that I thought we should have gotten. And I was sitting there, I was like I felt unhappy with music, and then I kind of thought back, and I was like, why am I unhappy? It's like, the things that made me unhappy weren't in my control. I had no fucking say whether we got that fucking tour spot. I had no fucking say whether people fucking bought our tunes. Like, what I was in control of was the process, making tunes with fucking Zell, moving the DYE forward, all these things. That was what I was in control of. And then for me, it was recognizing that and going, okay, enjoy the process. Because that's all I can fucking do. Once you enjoy the process, cool. Whether you get this fucking spot or whether this symptom lines up, it's fine. And when it happens, awesome. If it doesn't, I wasn't fucking consulted on it, so I can't waste any mental capacity thinking about it.
Exactly. You have to just really fall in love with the actual act of releasing music, and then whatever comes from it,
Yep.
is like, it is what it is. And like, I mean, sure there's like arguments for like this is the thing about the creative world. It doesn't give a fuck what you deserve or what you think you deserve or how hard. It doesn't give a fuck how hard you worked either. It's just really a matter of, it's a combination of strategy. And when you listen to like interviews with like really like successful people, they all seem to say that it's also luck. And they all bring up like these artists that they thought were like, that was going to surpass us any day.
Yep.
There is like, a lot of luck to it as well, but, and because of how hard it is, how, like, it's not like, you go to work for a week and then you have a week's pay. It's like, you go to work for 10 years and you have nothing still, and
we have memories.
Yeah, you got good memories and you have experiences and stuff. But like, even bigger bands, like bands that are signed and have toured, like, they, their bands sort of like, they break up or go on hiatus and then they all get jobs at bars. Like, everybody ends up in the same sort of place. Like, and it's difficult and, it's really easy to fall into a trap of feeling bitter about not getting this or not getting that, which is why I sound like a broken record. The most important thing I've realized is like, okay, I write songs. That's like my main skill. I also, I have some like leadership skills that I've developed over the years and stuff like that. My biggest responsibility is further development of those two things. And, rather than worrying about, how things are going to be received, with our last record, Crook, I just did what I was like, what am I feeling in my heart? And what I was feeling in my heart at that particular time was, I just want people to mosh to this, and so like, I just dedicated to myself to that very simple concept and put out that record. Yeah. And this time, and we saw the best turnaround. We got Spotify playlists. We did well on Apple Music. We actually saw the money that we put into the album come back to us.
How good's that?
Nice one.
Feeling good.
Congrats about that.
Cheers, man,
Recoup.
cheers. Free coop proof.
Yep.
And so this time I. Like, I'm not saying what I did last time was shallow, because I was focusing on like people's enjoyment levels. Like, we make heavy music and I know people just like to, throw down to it and stuff like that. That's what I was focused on. This time the world is a very different place from when I was writing those songs. And I feel like there's more of a responsibility to focus on, in my case, I was going through like probably like the most, not the most difficult time in my life, but the most difficult challenge that I had set out for myself, which was really genuinely clean myself up and like get to a place of being a person that I'm like completely proud of. Conduct, behavior, you know, day-to-day, just basic lifestyle. And then also within the context of being in a band, making sure that the guys in the band feel like they are respected for all the work that they put in and all of the, like, you know, all of the contributions that they make, and fostering like a very positive vibe, as well as going on my own personal journey of like, you know, self-reflection, correction of behavior, and becoming the best version of myself. And I did that during the period of time of, you know, it's sort of been going on for a couple of years now, but I chose, this is a time where it's like, you know, I didn't feel like it was just enough to sort of just be like, let's have a heavy album. It's people are like, you know, they're losing their homes, they're losing their jobs, they can't work, they're losing their minds, you know, so I'll give them something that they can really relate to, which was the, you know, anything hard is like, you know, it's torture to go through, to like, no one's perfect, but a lot of people are like, for anybody who is deeply flawed like myself, it's torture to really own up to like everything, you know, like every single thing, and be like, I have to correct all of this. And what I endeavored to do with this record was put the torture into the music, you know, and I think that because it is very sincere and coming from like a very real place of something that I am currently going through, not like calling back on for like the old days and stuff. I feel like people that are going through a similar time themselves are going to like really resonate with it. And yeah, I'm like, just in the process of taking responsibility for like a lot of stuff. And
yeah,
you know.
well, for something that has been difficult, you sound excited about it.
Yeah,
Because it's like,
I am.
you know, the actual process of going through something like that is difficult. But, you know, when you not get through it, but when you're on the end of that, there's a catharsis and there's like, you know, a release and you know, almost a shedding of that weight.
Yeah, I was going to say, does it feel
that's an exciting thing.
as you kind of see this, you know, self-progression come out into music and start to manifest into an actual, it's like, fuck, you listen to songs like, all right, it's no longer inside, we've translated, there's music. When you're listening to these songs, does it feel like there's been weight lifted? Does it feel like you're kind of letting go of some of these fucking demons as you're putting it out into the music?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, man, for sure. The overall feeling that I would say is most enjoyable that I feel is that for the first time, I feel like I've been, well, not for the first time, but I feel like I've been the most honest. Like no bravado, no ego. This is just really what it is. So I was the most honest. We've produced the best music that we've ever made. And on the other side of it, I also feel as though for the first time I can be 100% proud of what I've done without any kind of like exceptions or reservations. Like before, you know, this is literally just kind of how it was. Like I was a fuck up in a lot of my life, you know, a lot of my life outside of music and including within music, because you can't fuck up in one part of your life and not have it bleed into anything else. Yeah. But for the first time, I can be proud of the music, proud of the work, and also proud of myself, you know, as well. And that is like a very good feeling. And no matter how hard it actually was to like, you know, clean up the mess that was my myself and my life, the feeling alone of not having any of my like, you know, relationships or friendships or the work itself marred by, yeah, but you know, there's also this, there's also
the little
that.
asterisk next to it.
Yeah, the little asterisk is a very like liberating feeling.
Awesome, man.
Love to
Fucking
hear it.
stoked to hear it.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Nice. Well,
Yeah. I think
we're pretty much there, man. Before we fucking leave, do you
that went
want to just give yourselves a plug? Where can people find you? Earthcaller, Josh Collard. Let everyone fucking know where to find you and what's coming up.
Okay, so Instagram is at Earthcaller, just one word, and my personal one is at JoshDTD. You know, I'm posting about Earthcaller. I also have a rap project called J Caesar. You can find that on Instagram at JCZAF. JC's as fuck, you know. outside of that, just go on the Earth Caller. You'll find the socials for the other guys, and I just want to just to wrap it up in the spirit of everything that I've been saying. I just want to give a shout out to Nick, Clinch, and Carlo, because this lineup and these guys have like really, they've fostered the positive changes that I've made and been like really supportive. And I just want to say that like their contributions both to the creative process and to just being like really solid friends and bandmates has been like integral in making this all work. And I just want to say, put it on record that I love those guys, and I love doing what I do.
It's good to have that herd of people around you when you're going through this process, and the fact that you can appreciate and be fucking so grateful for those people is awesome, man.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing all these stories and opening up yourself really and coming on the podcast for the first one of the year. So
yeah, nice.
Yeah,
as always, if there's any questions for us or Josh, just fucking slide into our DMs. We'll let him know. And the new Earth Caller album is coming soon.
Very soon, yeah.
Very soon. Cool. We'll keep you posted. You'll fucking hear about it.
This is the preamble.
Love it.
This is wetting the beak for everybody.
Love
New
it.
stuff is coming soon.
My man, thank you very much for joining us. It's
Thank
been
you
an
for having me.
absolute pleasure.
Awesome.
Thanks, man.
Ciao.